Get the decon inhibitor removed. We're ready to roll when you're ready.
Okay, let me make sure that we're configured here. The Moscow Control Center speaking. Prior to the launch, there is 2 hours and 46 minutes left. To the Baikonur launch pad site, there has arrived the bus with the crew of the Soyuz, the commander Alexi Leonov, and flight engineer Valery Kubasov. The bus was made at the Moscow bus factory and is made especially for transporting the crew to the launch site. And within the bus there is a vacuum system whereby one can remove the dust within the bus and keep it clean. Within the bus, the bus has wide windows installed, and the windows are darkened to prevent sun's rays from actually penetrating too brightly. The bus also has pneumatic type support distance on the hatch between the descent vehicle and orbital module is closed. The ventilation system of the descent vehicle is also open. Moscow Flight Center, Control Center, over.
Follow network.
Network, no.
Roger, would you arm your command system?
Station's on.
Roger.
The Soviet Space Center speaking. It is now 13 hours, 20 minutes Moscow time. Prior to launch, remains 2 hours. At the present time, the crew is carrying out a check of the equipment. They have pressurized the orbital module. Based on the reports from the Cosmodrome, the pressure in the descent module is it's 18 degrees Celsius. 875 is the pressure of the orbital, and
Start your tape, please.
22 within 22 degrees Celsius. The crew is feeling fine. This is the Moscow Control Center, over.
EDPS confirmed that he sees that at this time.
This is the Soviet Mission Control Center. In accordance to the schedule of preparing the spacecraft for launch, we're now separating the service cables. The powerful hydraulic arms are moving away from the booster rocket itself, and they will be lowered hydraulically to a horizontal position. Now, the onboard systems are connected to the launch pad only through the feed cable, through the fuel cable. And fuel components are still being put on board. Also, there's communications for contact for speaking from the ground personnel side to the spacecraft. This is Moscow Control Center. This is the Soviet Mission Control Center. 25 minutes remain before launch of the Soviet spacecraft Soyuz. The crew is performing the preparations of onboard systems. The onboard tape recorder has been checked. The digital readout data system has been also checked. This consists of it's set for immediate raising of the orbit in case of improper insertion. The crew has just reported that onboard checking has been completed. Everything on board is in order. The crew is ready for launch. The spacecraft commander's the pulse is 84 of the spacecraft commander, breathing rate 21. 73 pulse of the board engineer and 23 respiration rate. The separation of the service cables is being completed. This is Moscow Flight Control Center. This is the Soviet Mission Control Center. Moscow time is 15 hours, 15 minutes. Everything is ready at the Cosmodrome for the launch of the Soviet spacecraft Soyuz. 5 minutes remaining for launch. Onboard systems are now under onboard control. The right control board of the cosmonauts, which is opposite the commander's couch, is now turned on. The cosmonauts have strapped themselves in and reported that they are ready. They have lowered their face plates. The key for launch has been inserted. The last stage before launch is completed. Now the commander is reporting that everything is in order on board and the crew is ready for launch. This is Moscow Mission Control. Center. 2 minutes left before launch of the Soviet spacecraft Soyuz. The commands to pressurize the fuel tanks have been given. The fuel has been also, the booster has been full. Now, the booster tanks, the oxidizer tanks on the booster rocket are being vented. 1.5 minutes remaining before launch. Before launch. The key for launch has been turned. The fueling tower has been removed. 30 seconds before launch. The launch command has been given. Telemetry registry equipment has been turned on. Also, the onboard control systems of the registration equipment here. Ignition. The engines are powered up. The launch. The booster is off. Moscow time, 15 hours, 20 minutes, 10 seconds. The flight is proceeding normally. The programmed maneuver of the booster rocket has been given. 20 minutes into flight. The flight is normal. The engine is operating in a stable manner. There's a slight movement of the booster oscillation. 30 seconds. The flight is proceeding normally. 40 seconds. The flight is normal. Seconds of flight of the booster of the Soyuz spacecraft. The first stage has been passed, on which maximum acceleration is encountered. The speed, the velocity has exceeded 500 meters per second. Slight overloads are being felt by the crew. 100 seconds into the flight, the rocket is proceeding in a stable manner. The crew is reporting from on board the spacecraft. ...120 seconds into the flight. The first stage side segments have separated. The speed is over 1.5 kilometers per second. The second stage engines are operating in a stable manner. Slight overload is being felt by the crew. Seconds into the flight. The emergency jettison systems, rescue system has been jettisoned. The covering shrouds has separated. The crew is reporting from on board the spacecraft. The second stage engines are operating. Seconds into the flight. The booster is stable. The speed is now over 3 kilometers per second. – 320 seconds. The flight is normal. Seconds into the flight. Stabilization of the third stage. The third stage is stable. Pressure in the burning chamber, in the combustion chamber of the third stage is within normal limits. Velocity of the booster rocket has now exceeded 4.5 kilometers per second. Altitude of the spacecraft, in accordance to the program, is about 190 kilometers. The distance from the launch pad is about 700 kilometers. Seconds. The flight is proceeding normally. Velocity of the booster has now exceeded 5 kilometers per second. Distance from the launch site is approximately 900 kilometers. – 420 seconds into the flight. The flight is proceeding normally. 430 seconds. The third stage engines are operating in a stable manner. – 450 seconds. The booster is stable. Pressure in the combustion chamber is normal. The booster is stable. Velocity has reached 6 kilometers per second. Altitude of the spacecraft is about 200 kilometers. Distance from the launch site, about 1,200 kilometers. The crew is feeling well, normally. The booster is stable. The overload, the G-load is slightly increasing. The velocity of the booster is about 7 kilometers per second. Distance from the launch site is over 1,500 kilometers. 530 seconds into the flight. The third stage engine has been turned off. The third stage engine has been switched off, and the spacecraft Soyuz has now been inserted into orbit. Orbital flight has been initiated. The antennas are now being opened, and the solar panels of the spacecraft Soyuz are now being extended. The control over the Soyuz spacecraft has now been transferred to the Soviet Mission Control Center. This is Moscow Mission Control Center. This is the Soviet Mission Control Center. Moscow time, 15 hours, 35 minutes. The Soyuz spacecraft is now in orbital flight. It is just now within the communication area of Ussurisk ground station. The crew is talking with the Mission Control Center. After leaving the communication zone of the Ussurisk ground station, the spacecraft Soyuz will be heard again only at the American tracking ship Vanguard. At the second orbit, the Soyuz spacecraft will enter AOS of Eupatoria at 1562. The Soyuz will be heard over the USSR territory until 17 hours, 12 minutes, when it will leave the zone of the coverage zone of Ussurisk. At the present time, the Soyuz spacecraft is entering the Earth's shadow. This is Moscow Mission Control. Moscow, this is Soyuz 2. We are entering the Earth's shadow. Roger. In 10 seconds. We're monitoring the Soyuz. This is Moscow. Soyuz, this is Moscow. Would you take down the following data? Go on. 1649, 1712. 1649, 1712. Roger, affirmative. Roger, Soyuz 2. According to telemetric data, the antennas and solar panels have opened normally. How does your data show? According to our data, the same thing. Roger. Roger. Soyuz, this is Moscow. Now we are finishing our communication section. Have a happy flight, and until the next ground station comm session. The cosmonauts have selected their orientation engines. According to onboard information, the solar panels and the radio system antennas have been deployed. Also, the VHF antenna has been deployed, as well as other units of the onboard systems. This is Moscow Mission Control Center.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We're at T-minus 6 hours, 3 minutes and counting. We're continuing to monitor mission control from the Soviet Union, and as we get announcements from them, we'll drop off and try to hear what they're saying. We're continuing to load liquid oxygen aboard the first stage of the Saturn rocket at the fast fill rate of 1,200 gallons per minute. Here in the firing room, the ASTP Program Director, Chet Lee, Apollo Launch Director, Walt Kaprian, and Kennedy Space Center Director, Lee Shear, were among those who watched the Soviet launch on closed-circuit television from here in the firing room. That launch took place just 10 seconds after 8:20. At about 6 o'clock this morning, we had a weather briefing from our NOAA expert, alerts, and they indicate that we look like we have about the best weather predicted for this afternoon that we've had in many days. We'll be looking for a mostly sunny afternoon with some scattered clouds, visibility 10 miles, temperature about 85 at the launch site. Winds from the southeast 10 to 15 miles per hour. Some isolated thunderstorms in the area, but not expected to be here in the immediate launch area. They'll be offshore or off to the west of us if all goes as planned. Our countdown continuing, T-minus 6 hours, 2 minutes and counting. This is Kennedy Launch Control. Really?
Soviet Mission Control Center. Moscow time is 15 hours, 54 minutes. 34 minutes and 40 seconds. The Soyuz spacecraft has been in orbital flight. Now it has crossed the Earth's equator and is now passing over the Pacific Ocean. The communication session program has been fully accomplished. The next communication session will be nominal. At the present time, the crew is monitoring the pressure integrity of the spacecraft, of the various modules of the spacecraft, and monitoring the condition status of the onboard systems. This is Moscow Mission Control Center. This is Soviet Mission Control Center. Moscow time is 15 hours, 58 minutes. The Soyuz spacecraft is in orbital flight. According to radio trajectory data, which has been received from the Ulan-Ude, Ussurisk, and Kolpasheva ground tracking stations, the preliminary orbit has been established preliminarily for the first orbit. Maximum altitude 220.8 kilometers, minimum 185.7 kilometers. 88.49 minutes orbital time. The program of the flight for the first orbit has been nominal. At the present time, the crew of the Soyuz spacecraft is performing the following operations. Monitoring the pressure integrity of onboard systems, monitoring the status of spacecraft systems. This is Moscow Mission Control Center. The Soyuz spacecraft has now been in flight for 3 hours and 50 minutes. At the present time, The spacecraft is completing its third orbit of the flight. At this time, it is now coming out of the Earth's shadow over the Pacific Ocean. In accordance with the schedule, the cosmonauts are finishing their meal. The menu of the space meal includes, on the first day, all the various greens in tubes which the cosmonauts heat in a special heater which is located in the orbital module. For the second
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We're at T-minus 3 minutes, 3 hours, 30 minutes, and holding. We're just finishing up that planned hold period, scheduled to run from 11:18 to 12:36. So we'll be coming out of that hold shortly. We do have 2 more holds planned for the countdown. There's a liftoff adjustment hold at the T-minus 15-minute mark. That's a 2-minute hold, and that hold can vary in time somewhat to give us the best trajectory to the orbiting Soyuz. Also, there has been planned a 5-minute, 24-second weather avoidance hold down at the T-minus 4-minute mark in the countdown. Now, that hold will be used if we have good weather. However, if we can see that there's bad weather coming into the area, we would not observe that hold and would continue counting right on down to an early launch time. The countdown has proceeded smoothly this morning. The cryogenic fuels, liquid oxygen in the first and second stage, and liquid hydrogen in the second stage were brought aboard starting at 7:40 a.m. this morning, and that cryogenic fueling was finished up about 10:30, a little after 10:30. The Soyuz launch, of course, occurred right on time at 8:20 or 5 milliseconds thereafter, and the flight crew here at the Kennedy Space Center, astronauts Stafford, Brand, and Sladen, were alerted about 10:30. They proceeded to have the traditional breakfast of steak and eggs. We're getting the alert here in the firing room that the countdown clock is about to start. Mark, T-minus 3 hours, 30 minutes, and counting. As we were saying, the crew proceeded to their traditional breakfast of steak and eggs this morning, and that was the first opportunity they had to see a rerun of the Soyuz launch, which had taken place earlier. Joining them for breakfast this morning was John Young, Ron Evans, Jack Glausma, and also Dave Ballard, the training officer. They're right now in the suit room at the Manned Spacecraft Operations Building, donning their spacesuits, and they're scheduled to leave the suit room about 12:37 for the trip out to Pad B. The weatherman continues to be cooperative, indicating we should have some scattered clouds in the area, but no lightning or thunderstorms. We'll be looking for winds from the southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Temperature in the launch area of about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and visibility up to at least 10 miles. Count continuing now at T-minus 3 hours, 29 minutes and counting. This is Kennedy Launch Control.
system contact, number 2.
Under contact.
Roger, I'd like you to meet me on net 3 for voice check.
This is Apollo Saturn Launch Control. We're T-minus 3 hours, 16 minutes and counting. At this time, we're standing by for the astronaut crew to leave the manned spacecraft operations building, where they'll get into a specially designed vehicle which will carry them out to the pad. The trip out to the pad is approximately one of 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less. However, there are large crowds on the highway today between the manned spacecraft operations building and the pad area. These are crowds of people coming out to watch the launch, and that astronaut van will have to go through those crowds. So that could be a little bit longer, 20 to 25 minutes to get out to the pad. Accompanying the astronauts will be suit technicians, Frank Hernandez and Al Rockford. They'll be assisting the astronauts once they arrive at the command module and assisting them into their couches in the command module. We'll stand by at this time and alert you just as soon as the crew leaves the manned spacecraft operations building. They have essentially completed their suiting, and we're expecting them to leave momentarily. This is Kennedy Launch Control.
Okay.
Minutes. The Soyuz spacecraft is in its fourth orbit. In 1.5 minutes, it will enter the communication zone of the American tracking station Madrid. At the present time, the spacecraft crew has completed manual orbital orientation of the spacecraft according to the local vertical and the rate gyro. The local vertical makes it possible to orient the spacecraft in such a manner that its solar panel plane would be perpendicular to the orbit. The spacecraft is oriented for braking. In other words, its braking engines are pointed towards against the line of flight. 40 seconds before AOS. The onboard report will be on the technical communications line. This is Moscow Mission Control Center. This is Soyuz. I read you well. Soyuz, this is Moscow. We're waiting for information on performing of manual orientation and transfer to the orbital orientation mode. Moscow, this is Soyuz. Orientation has been completed. Yaw 180. We have orientation. Soyuz, this is Moscow, roger. Globe correction performed? Yes, globe correction was performed at the specified time. Soyuz, this is Moscow. Understand you, over.